Good morning, everybody. So we're gonna go into proteins today. We're learning the basics of our macronutrients first, which will be carbohydrates. We went over yesterday. If you're interested, I have a live on carbohydrates, and then diet 101 as well. That's the start of our little program. And then today we're going to go over proteins. Proteins are probably the trickiest of the macronutrients. Proteins are made up of amino acids. There's 20 amino acids total, and some are complementary to others, so you need one to absorb the other. And then there's also 9 of the 20 amino acids that are considered essential amino acids. And essential means that the body cannot synthesize or make the amino acid, so it has to be taken in through your diet. That's why it's considered essential. So just something to think about. That's why protein is so important, because some of the amino acids must be consumed through your diet. So that's just something to kind of think about. And then a complete protein, which will have the complementary amino acids, will be like your meat, your fish, your eggs, your dairy. So that'll be complete protein, so you don't have to worry about having a complementary protein to absorb the other protein that you're consuming. So like whenever people go vegan and eliminate a lot of the animal products out of their diet, then you'll become protein deficient sometimes because you're not eating complementary proteins. Like for instance, red beans and rice. Red beans has one amino acid and the rice has another, and they both have to be present for either one of them to be absorbed, so that's why they're called complementary proteins. And proteins are very important to do complementary if you are eliminating animal products from your diet, because that is where you get most of your protein intake from, is from animal products. So if you do eliminate animal products out of your diet, definitely look into what complementary proteins you need to get the essential amino acids that you're missing from your diet, because that can lead to issues later down the road. You know, too little protein is not good, and also too much protein is not good. It's really about, you know, moderation always in the diet. When it comes to intake protein, you're supposed to, men are supposed to eat about 56 grams of protein a day, and women are supposed to eat about 46 grams of protein a day. That is equivalent to about 10% of your total calorie intake. So proteins aren't one of the bulk of your diet. It's usually carbohydrates. You want carbohydrates to be 45 to 65% of your diet, and then you want proteins to be 10%. So what does that leave us with? About, let's see, 10, and then we have like 65, so about 25% we're gonna want for our fat. So that's just, you know, a roundabout. Everyone's gonna vary a little bit depending on your calorie needs and whatnot. So proteins are important for almost everything in the body. It is like a building block. The amino acids work together to build protein, to build muscle, and to build body tissue, and to repair parts of the body. So that's why it is so important to make sure that you get enough protein. And then proteins are also, or enzymes are proteins. So they're essential for a lot of the mechanisms in the body, like hemoglobin is a protein, and that is what gets oxygen to your blood, so that is definitely considered an essential function of the body. So like I said, it's crazy what all of the nutrients do in our body that we're not even aware of. You know, the body is very resilient, and it's amazing how it compensates and fixes. And just, you know, to put that in perspective, protein is not the number one fuel source for the body, or not the one that the body prefers. So if you do have any like energy stores from carbohydrates or fat, the body will use that first over protein. Protein is a little bit harder for the body to break down. So that's why it is the last of the macronutrients to be used for energy. So carbohydrates will always be the preferred fuel of the body. If carbohydrates aren't present, then the body will go to fat for energy. And then if there's no fat present, then it'll break down protein for energy as, you know, a third mechanism. So that just goes to show you how resilient the body is and how it really works with what it's given. And anytime like something goes wrong in your body starts like fixing it immediately. It's amazing, really, all of the different things that the body does while we're just sitting there. So it also, like, proteins help in hormone regulation, and they help with making you feel full longer. It sits in your belly a little while longer, so it does help you feel full longer than other macronutrients. So that's one thing. Other thing that it does, and then let's see what else we got. And then it helps with your metabolism, and then also your bone health. So you definitely want to pay attention to the amount of protein you eat. You know, too much or too little can be bad. So we want to pay attention and try to get it to approximately 10% of what we're eating. And like I said, yesterday we went over carbohydrates. There's a little bit more information on that than I have on protein, because it's such a huge part of the diet. So if you haven't watched the one from yesterday, go check it out. It's under my lives. It's Carbohydrates 101. And then today we covered fats. I'm sorry, today we covered proteins, and tomorrow we're gonna cover fats. So we're just gonna get like the basics down so we can really understand our diet and hopefully be able to make informed and better decisions about it later on. So if anybody has any questions, definitely let me know. If you have any diet specific issues that you're dealing with, I'll be happy to do the research for you and hopefully find a solution or come up with ways that we can work towards a solution. So I hope you guys are learning something. That's the whole point here. We just want to educate everyone so they can make the best decisions for their body. Because, you know, you have to take care of your body because you only have one. You know, like, people take their health for granted, and it's not something that should be overlooked. It's something that it should actually be our number one priority, you know, is our health. Because without our health, what do we have? We don't really have much. So we want to be preventative with our diet and try to avoid getting sick. You know, some people might already have something that they're struggling with dietary wise, and the faster you fix it, the better. You know, any bad behavior that you have, the sooner it is fixed, the better, and the less damage that it does. So it's just something to keep in mind. Watch your calorie intake. Figure out how many calories you're supposed to need for the day. if you go to AI, instead of having to plug into this complicated formula and potentially still get the wrong number, ask AI to calculate your TEE, your total energy expenditure, and it'll do it. It'll say, I'll need a little bit more information. It'll ask your height, your weight, your sex, but it'll do all the conversions for you, because the formula is like, it's not in pounds. So you do have to do a bunch of conversions, and it's a long formula. It's pretty hard. I'm good at math and I still have trouble with it. So I don't want to really like throw that on y'all plate whenever we're already given so much information. So just ask AI for help, and it can do all the calculating and computing for you. It'll also like tell you your activity factor. It'll ask you about sedentary means that you don't exercise at all. Lightly active means that you exercise 1 to 3 times a week, and they just go up from there. So you do calculate that in, because that does affect how many calories that you can eat in a day. So definitely put in your activity factor, or say your calorie range. Like for instance, mine without my activity factor is around like a little under 1,200 calories, which is not enough of a range for me. So I do choose to be active for that reason, so I can eat, like a normal person. But it's always something to consider. All of our bodies are different. We all have different needs. So what you really want to do is listen to your body. Like I said, nourish it, take care of it, and do things to be preventative and to keep yourself healthy, because that is the main thing. And then I wanted to also give you guys a little bit of product advice. I know we've gone over trying to keep fluoride out of our mouths as much as possible. There is a toothpaste that is fluoride free. I know you can find it at most stores. It's called Hello. Okay, so that's easy enough to remember. Hello. So that's what we've been using, and it seems to have been working thus far. I was using like a little homemade toothpaste. I was making it with baking soda and some essential oils and stuff like that. But having the paste back is really nice. You'll probably find it on the outside of the aisle. The bigger companies are going to have center show. So always, like when you're looking for a smaller brand, and maybe like I said, a fluoride-free toothpaste or something like that, look on the outskirts of the aisle. It usually won't be in the center, because that's money, and that's where Crest and Colgate will be. But try it. It has like natural peppermint flavor. There's very few ingredients, which is always good, and we seem to like it. My husband was using regular toothpaste, and I was using baking soda, and we found this toothpaste and we're both very happy with it. So it is something to consider. But we definitely need to try to share product information with each other, because it is hard to find good products, and all of the bigger brands are going to overwhelm the smaller ones. So you might not even notice, the Hello toothpaste. So definitely look for the smaller brands. Corporate America, they don't really care about us too much. We've learned that the hard way. They pick profit over people, and we want to try to get competition back in the market and get the small guys a chance, like people that are actually making a good product with good intentions and thoughtfulness behind it in a productive way for us. So we need to, kick the boot to Big Corp and tell them that they can go home, because we can make better products than them. So also, I've been kind of trying to think of maybe making more natural products myself. There's so many ways that we're getting exposed to chemicals, whether it's through our diet. Our diet is full of all kind of chemicals, just like man-made stuff things that are just really just energy, not nutritious. Like, we need nutrition. Nutrition is the number one thing for our body to make us feel better and to make us feel good. So just keep that in mind. You know, look for brands that maybe you've never bought before on the outside of the aisles when it comes to like face washes and like soaps. Like soaps, for instance, I use like Dove White. My dermatologist recommended it. He said that it has the least amount of chemicals in it, and I find that it's very easy on my skin. So I'll use Dove White. I do use deodorant that does not have any aluminum in it. You know, aluminum, they won't tell you this, speaking of profit over people, but the aluminum in your deodorant is a major cause of breast cancer. So think about it. Whenever you put your deodorant on, where is it getting transferred besides your underarm? To the side of your breast, the outside of your breast. If you look, science shows that most breast cancers are in that area of the breast. Go figure. And then, you know, like I said, speaking of profit over people, I hate how like they took the aluminum out of the deodorant. They're like, now it's aluminum free. Like, well, we're not going to tell you why we took it out, but it's aluminum free now. So just shut up, behave, and take what you get. You know, like, still full of all kind of other chemicals and all that stuff that we put on our body, including makeup. Like, I use an e.l.f. Primer, and it puts a layer between your makeup and your skin. It's just something, you know, to try to safeguard, to put a barrier between the chemicals that we're putting onto our bodies. You wouldn't even think about like all the different ways, you know, like if you sit in a bathtub, the water is full of fluoride, that's all going through your pores. If you wear tights, the microplastics are they're touching your leg all the time and eventually going into your bloodstream, you know. So we just have to do the best we can. It's not, you can't avoid all chemicals, but you can minimize it to the fullest extent, the best that you can. Always go back to Snowden, and he said, like, you know, on your phone, you're never gonna have complete privacy, but you can do your best to try to be as private as possible, you know, whether it's turning off your location on a lot of these apps, or there's ways to do it. So you have to always protect yourself first. The corporate America doesn't always have our best, doesn't always have the best intentions, you know. Everything is about profit. Me and my husband were talking last night, and I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but a 40-hour work week is just daunting. It's like you go to work, you get home, you prep yourself for the next day, you know, you fuel yourself with food, then you bathe, you wake up the next day, and you do it all over again. And then you have the weekend, which Friday you worked, so Friday is not considered a weekend to me. Saturday is the actual only free day that you have, because Sunday is a free day as well, but you're anticipating the workload of Monday, and then the 5 days, you know, the full 5-day work week, which is just daunting. And then if you think about it, all we're doing, for the most part, unless you're a doctor, let's be honest, you're not having usually the most fulfilled work life. You're not changing the world. What we're really doing is sitting around selling each other crap that we don't need. You know, like, I don't know, I work in retail. I do sell stuff that we do, like, that some people do need. My husband works in retail as well, and his is an essential, but only to a certain extent, you know. So it's like, are we just sitting around selling each other crap that we don't need? Is that why we're having to work 40 hours a week to make so much money? You know, like, could we do 4 work days and 3 days off, like, and just eliminate a lot of the crap that we buy? Since 2020, everything's changed in the financial sector and the pricing sector and all of that. So I really adjusted my lifestyle and I quit buying a lot of crap, you know, like I was always very privileged to be able to afford whatever I wanted for the most part before 2020. But once my budget tightened up, I was like, whoa, I'm spending all this money on stuff that I don't need. Yes, I may want it, but if you stop looking and not paying attention to what you're missing out on, then honestly, there's ways to cut back. And if you could save yourself an extra day of time and not be at work, would you sacrifice some of the things that you purchase for yourself? But that's just like my view on things, you know. Or let's say instead of buying that extra pair of sneakers that you might not need, why don't you go invest $100 into the stock market? You know, like that is, unless a company goes bankrupt, you're always going to have something to show for it. Most things that we buy in the retail sector, besides guns, guitars, and gold, are going to be the only things that really hold their value and might go up in value. Everything else depreciates very, very quickly. So is it an investment? Is it worth your money? Are we viewing things the wrong way? Is our time valuable, or are these things valuable that we're buying? And could we just, you know, like pump the brakes a little bit and take our time back from corporate America? You know, like I don't even work for a corporation and I just feel trapped sometimes, and I know most people do. It's like we have no choice to be frank, you know, most people don't have the choice to work 3 or 4 days a week, because I think if people did have the choice, that if they were exposed to it, they would choose their time, because your time is so valuable. But anyway, that's my little tidbit for the day. Thank you guys for listening. And if you didn't see the one yesterday on carbohydrates, or even Diet 101, that like gives like all like the coolest things that I've learned, like basics in nutrition. I graduated in dietetics, so I'm pretty educated on the subject. So if you have any questions, y'all let me know and I'll be happy to help, and we're gonna get healthy together. All right.